listen to me. Leadership is not about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to be real. People don't follow perfection. They follow authenticity. And the moment you stop pretending to be invincible, that's the moment people actually start trusting you. Too many people think leadership means you have to be flawless, that you can never slip up, never show weakness, never admit when you don't know something. But let me tell you the truth right now, perfection does not inspire people. Authenticity does. Nobody connects with the leader who always pretends to have it all together. Nobody follows the robot. People follow the human. See, when you try to live behind this wall of perfection, you distance yourself from the very people you're supposed to lead. You create a gap so wide that your team can't even see themselves in you anymore. They start to think, well, he never struggles. She never fails. They never feel insecure. They never make mistakes. So maybe when I fail, when I make mistakes, I don't belong here. Do you hear what I'm saying? When you put on a mask of a perfection, you're not protecting your credibility. You're destroying it. Authenticity means you're willing to let people see the real you. And the real you is powerful because it's relatable. It's messy sometimes. It's imperfect. It's full of lessons learned the hard way. And that's what people connect with. That's what inspires people to believe if they can get through it. So can I think about it? Nobody is motivated by perfection. If someone stands in front of you and tells you they never doubted themselves, never had sleepless nights, and never questioned whether they were good enough, you don't feel inspired, you feel disconnected. But when a leader says, I've doubted myself too, I've cried too, I've fallen flat on my face and had to get back up, suddenly you feel like, well, they're just like me. And if they made it through, I can make it too. Leadership is not about painting a picture of perfection. It's about showing the scars, the struggles, the setbacks, and how you kept moving anyway. Because your team, your family, your people, they don't need a superhero. They need a role model. They need someone who can show them how to walk through the fire without quitting. And you can't show them that by pretending you've never been burned. I know some of you are scared. You're afraid if you show weakness, if you admit you don't have it all figured out, people will lose respect for you. But hear me, the opposite is true. People respect honesty. They respect courage. They respect someone who can stand in front of them and say, I don't know everything, but I'm committed to learning. I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to find them. I'm not perfect, but I'm real. That's the kind of leader people will fight for. Perfection is lonely. It keeps you on a pedestal where nobody can reach you. But authenticity brings people closer. Authenticity creates unity. It says, I'm walking this road with you, not above you. It breaks the lie that leadership is about titles and flawless images. Leadership is about influence, and influence comes from connection. You can't connect if you're hiding behind a mask. And let me tell you something else. When you finally take that mask off, it feels like freedom because perfection is exhausting. Trying to be perfect every day drains you, stresses you, breaks you. But when you stand in your truth, when you embrace your flaws, when you lead with your whole self, suddenly leadership doesn't feel like a burden anymore. It feels like purpose. You want to inspire people. Show them your humanity. Show them that leadership is not about never falling. It's about always rising. Show them that failure is not the end. It's a stepping stone. Show them that weakness is not something to hide. It's something to grow from. That's authenticity. That's what separates leaders who are admired from leaders who are feared. Let me tell you something straight up. Leadership is not about pretending you're untouchable. It's about being real enough to admit when you're wrong, Too many leaders think that if they confess a mistake, they'll lose authority, they'll lose respect, they'll lose their people. But the truth is the opposite. The moment you admit your mistakes, that's the moment people lean in and say, this is a leader I can trust. Because transparency is not weakness, it's strength. Think about it. Nobody respects the person who pretends they never mess up. We all know it's a lie because every human being makes mistakes. So when a leader refuses to admit it, what happens? They don't look strong. They look insecure. They don't look powerful. They look fake. And people can smell fake from a mile away. The leader who never admits mistakes loses credibility. But the leader who says, I was wrong, I dropped the ball, here's what I learned, here's how we're moving forward, that leader gains loyalty because people know they're honest. Transparency is courage. It takes guts to say, I don't have it all together. It takes guts to admit that decision wasn't the best one. It takes guts to stand in front of your team and say, I made a mistake, but I'm owning it and I'm fixing it. That kind of honesty doesn't make you small. It makes you bigger in the eyes of the people who follow you because they realize you're not hiding, you're not running, you're not afraid of accountability. See, leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being accountable. When you own your mistakes, you teach everyone around you that failure is not final, it's feedback. Or you set a culture where people don't have to hide when they mess up, where they don't have to cover their tracks in fear. You set a culture of growth instead of blame. And that's where teams thrive. Let me ask you something. Who do you trust more? The leader who pretends everything went according to plan, or the one who admits, we messed up here, but we're going to get it right next time? You trust the second one because trust is built on honesty. You can't follow someone if you don't believe their words. And you don't believe their word if they're always covering their mistakes. Transparency creates trust. Trust creates loyalty. Loyalty creates impact. That's the chain reaction. When you admit your mistakes, you're not showing weakness. You're showing confidence. Insecurity hides mistakes. Confidence owns them. Insecurity says, I can't let them see me fail. Confidence says, I'll show them how to recover. And recovery is more powerful than perfection. People don't need to see a leader who never stumbles. They need to see a leader who stumbles, gets back up, and keeps moving. That's what inspires. That's what gives hope. And don't get it twisted. Transparency is not about dumping your problems or exposing every flaw without direction. Transparency is about clarity. It's about telling the truth so your team has the whole picture. It's about admitting where things went wrong so you can correct the path. It's about saying, this is where we are, this is where we should be, and this is how we're going to get there. That's real leadership. That's leadership people can rally behind. The strongest leaders are not the ones who hide behind pride. The strongest leaders are the ones who step forward in humility and say, I messed up, but I won't let that mistake define me or this team. That strength creates respect. That respect creates loyalty because your people don't just want to see how you win. They want to see how you respond when you lose. They want to see how you bounce back, how you handle setbacks, how you lead when the spotlight is uncomfortable. That's the test of leadership. Listen carefully. Leadership is not about standing above people, it's about standing with them. You can have the title, the corner office, the paycheck, the authority, but if you don't have connection, you don't have trust. And if you don't have trust, you don't have leadership. Real leadership begins the moment people believe you are not just leading them, you are with them. And the bridge that makes that possible is vulnerability. When you are willing to be vulnerable, you break down the walls that separate you from your team. Too many leaders build those walls on purpose. They think distance equals respect, that if they stay untouchable, people will look up to them. But the truth is, distance doesn't breed respect. It breeds fear, and fear will never build loyalty. Fear might get you obedience for a while, but it will never earn you devotion. What earns devotion is connection, and what creates connection is vulnerability. Vulnerability is saying, I struggle too. I don't have all the answers. I've been where you are. I've felt the weight you feel. That honesty makes people lower their guard, because suddenly they're not following a statue, they're following a human being. They realize you're not on the outside judging them, you're in the fight with them. And when they feel that walls start crumbling, connection is not built in boardrooms or strategy sessions. It's built in those moments when people feel seen, heard, and understood. It's when the leader takes off the mask and says, I know what it's like to be tired. I know what it's like to question yourself. I know what it's like to keep pushing even when nobody's clapping for you. That's when people lean in. That's when they open up. That's when they start to trust, because they see you not as a boss, but as one of them. Let me make it plain. You cannot connect with people through perfection. Perfection intimidates. Perfection isolates. But vulnerability connects. It says, I'm not above you. I'm beside you. And once that connection is built, trust follows. Because people don't trust who you pretend to be. They trust who you really are. Trust is the foundation of every great team. Without trust, people play it safe. Without trust, people hide their mistakes. Without trust, people don't give their best because they're afraid of being judged. But when trust exists, people take risks. They innovate. They open their mouths and share ideas. They give their all because they believe their leader won't turn their flaws against them. And that kind of trust only comes from connection, and connection only comes from vulnerability. Some of you think vulnerability will make you look weak, but hear me, it makes you relatable. Nobody can connect to someone who looks flawless, but everybody can connect to someone who's real. When you're real, people don't just hear your words, they feel your words, they feel the truth behind them. They believe them because they see your scars. They see your journey, they see your humanity. And when they believe you, they follow you with their hearts, not just their hands. Connection builds trust, and trust is what holds the team together when things get rough. Projects will fail, plans will collapse, markets will shift, people will quit, pressure will rise. But when trust is in place, the team holds strong because they know their leader is not hiding, not pretending, not running from reality. They know their leader is with them shoulder to shoulder, honest and transparent. That's the glue that holds everything together. When the storms hit, you want loyalty, you want commitment, you want people to run through walls for you. Then stop hiding behind the image of a perfect leader and start connecting as a real human being. Vulnerability is not the enemy of leadership. It's the secret weapon. It's what allows people to see you, trust you, and give their best for you. It takes real courage to lead differently. Anybody can walk into a room and throw their title around. Anybody can use fear, position, or ego to control people. But it takes boldness to look people in the eyes and lead with honesty instead of ego. Ego screams, I'm in charge. Honesty whispers, I'm here with you. And let me tell you something, people will follow honesty a lot further than they will follow ego. See, ego is fragile. Ego needs to always be right. Ego needs to always be respected, even when it hasn't earned respect. Ego leads by intimidation, but intimidation doesn't last. People might bow to ego, but they'll never give their hearts to ego. And when times get tough, when the pressure rises, when the mission gets heavy, ego won't be enough to keep people with you. But honesty lasts. Honesty builds loyalty. Honesty says, I don't need to be perfect, I need to be real. And Being real takes courage. It's not easy to admit you don't have all the answers. It's not easy to step out of the traditional model of leadership where power equals silence and pride equals strength. But if you want to lead differently, you've got to be willing to go against the grain. You've got to be willing to put truth over image, substance over style, integrity over appearance. That's the kind of leadership that leaves a legacy. Think about the greatest leaders in history. They weren't great because they made everybody fear them. They weren't great because they strutted around with inflated egos. They were great because they had the courage to lead differently. They were willing to admit flaws, to speak truth, to put the mission above their pride. They built movements, not empires of fear, and movements last. Leading with honesty means saying, I made a mistake, but I'll fix it. It means saying, I don't know everything, but I'll learn. It means saying, I need your help, because together we're stronger than I am alone. That's not weakness, that's courage. It's easy to hide behind ego. It's easy to bluff and act like you've got it all together. But it takes guts to step forward with humility, because humility exposes you. And yet, that exposure is what earns trust. Understand this: when you lead with ego, people follow out of fear of what will happen if they don't. But when you lead with honesty, people follow out of belief in what can happen if they do. That's the difference. Fear might get you compliance, but honesty gets you commitment. And commitment is what changes teams, changes organizations, changes lives. The world doesn't need more leaders addicted to their own image. The world needs leaders bold enough to lead with truth. Leaders who don't just talk about values, but actually live them. Leaders who don't just demand loyalty, but inspire it through authenticity. Leaders who don't hide behind the mask of ego, but reveal their humanity and invite others to bring their best selves forward. That takes courage. That takes boldness. That takes a willingness to stand out when everyone else is just trying to blend in. And don't get it twisted. Leading differently will cost you something. People who are comfortable in the old system will criticize you. People who are addicted to power will mock you. People who want hierarchy over humanity will resist you. But the courage to lead differently is not about pleasing everybody. It's about creating impact. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy. It's about setting a new standard that says leadership is not about ego, it's about example. When you lead differently, you give people permission to lead differently too. You break cycles of fear. You create cultures of honesty. You set a tone that says we win, not by pretending we're untouchable, but by being bold enough to be real. That's the courage that separates leaders who are temporary from leaders who are timeless. Everybody wants to look strong. Everybody wants to show the highlight reel. But let me tell you something. True leadership isn't about flexing your strength. It's about showing people how to take weakness and turn it into power. Because nobody grows in their comfort zone. Nobody finds resilience in their victories. Resilience is forged in the fire of failure. And leadership is about showing people how to take that fire and let it fuel them instead of destroy them. Weakness is not the enemy. Hiding your weakness is. When you hide your struggles, you rob people of the example they desperately need. Because your team, your family, your people, they don't just need to see your wins. They need to see your process. They need to see that you've been through battles, that you've taken losses, that you faced fear, and yet you didn't stay down. They need to see how you turn struggle into strength, how you turn pain into purpose, how you turn setbacks into setups for comebacks. That's what vulnerability does. When you're willing to be vulnerable, when you're willing to say, yeah, I've struggled, yeah, I've been weak, yeah, I've doubted myself, but I didn't let it end there. You show people a roadmap. You show them that weakness doesn't have to be permanent. You show them that resilience isn't about never falling. It's about always rising. That's where the power is. See, everybody can celebrate after the victory, but it takes leadership to stand up in the middle of defeat and say, this is not the end. This is the beginning of a new level. People don't learn resilience by watching you win all the time. They learn resilience by watching how you respond when you lose. They learn resilience by seeing how you refuse to stay down, how you find lessons in the pain, how you keep moving when everything in you wants to quit. That's what inspires them to do the same. You've got to stop thinking that showing weakness makes you less of a leader. Weakness is part of being human. Pretending you don't have it only creates distance. Owning it creates connection. And when you own it, you flip the script. You say, this is what I went through. This is how it tried to break me. And this is how I used it to build me. That story becomes a source of power for you and for everyone you lead. Think about the people who have influenced you the most. Were they perfect? No. They were people who overcame something. They were people who carried scars, who had every reason to quit, but didn't. Their story gave you strength because you could see yourself in their struggle. And if they could rise from their weakness, you started to believe maybe you could rise too. That's the power of vulnerability. It doesn't just build you, it builds everyone around you. Turning weakness into power is about perspective. It's about choosing to see every failure as feedback, every challenge as training, every scar as proof that you survived. When you lead with that perspective, your people stop fearing weakness. They stop running from struggle. They start leaning into it because they know it's producing something in them. They know it's not the end of their story. It's the beginning of their strength. Weakness teaches you what strength can't. It teaches you patience. It teaches you humility. It teaches you empathy. When you've been weak, when you've struggled, you lead differently because you understand the pain of the people you're leading. And that understanding builds trust, loyalty, and resilience. That's why vulnerability is not a liability, it's an asset. It's what transforms ordinary leaders into extraordinary ones because they know how to turn their struggles into fuel for growth, for wisdom, for perseverance. So hear me on this. Don't hide your weaknesses. Don't run from them. Don't pretend they don't exist. Face them, own them, and then flip them. Show your people how weakness can become strength, how pain can become power, how vulnerability can become resilience. That's the kind of leadership that doesn't just build followers. It builds fightership. Is not just about your personal success. It's about the environment you create around you. Listen carefully. When leaders model vulnerability, they set the tone for everyone else. They create a space where people feel safe to be real, to take risks, to try new things without fear of being punished for failing. That is how innovation is born. That is how growth happens. That is how teams move from average to unstoppable. Too many leaders build cultures of fear without even realizing it. They think toughness means never showing weakness, and as a result, their people start hiding mistakes, staying quiet, and playing small. And guess what? When people play small, you never get their best. You never see their full potential. You never hear their boldest ideas. Fear might keep people in line, but it will never push them to greatness. Greatness is only unlocked in a culture of safety. When you, as a leader, model vulnerability, you send a message. You say, it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to try and fail. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to admit when you need help. That message frees your team. It gives them permission to bring their full selves into the room. It tells them you don't have to hide. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to put on a mask. And when people don't waste energy pretending, they can use that energy creating, building, innovating, growing. Safe culture doesn't mean easy culture. It doesn't mean lowering standards. It means raising standards by creating an environment where people are empowered to meet them. It means people are no longer paralyzed by fear of failing, because they know even if they fall, they won't be shamed. They'll be supported, corrected, and encouraged to try again. That's when they start giving their all. That's when they start pushing boundaries. That's when breakthroughs happen. Think about it. The greatest companies, the most impactful teams, the movements that changed history, they weren't built in fear. They were built in courage. And courage comes from safety. People can only take bold steps when they know someone has their back, when they know their leader won't crush them for making mistakes, but will stand beside them, help them learn, and push them forward. That's when risk becomes innovation. That's when failure becomes growth. That's when ordinary people do extraordinary things. But hear me, it all starts with you. If you as the leader walk in with ego, pretending you never mess up, your people will follow your example. They'll hide, they'll cover up, they'll keep their best ideas to themselves out of fear of being wrong. But if you walk in with honesty, if you admit when you made the wrong call, if you own your flaws and show how you're learning, your people will start doing the same. Vulnerability is contagious. If you want a culture of openness, you have to go first. And don't underestimate the impact this has on loyalty. When people feel safe, they stay. When people feel safe, they give their best. When people feel safe, they fight for the mission like it's their own. Safety creates belonging, and belonging creates commitment. People don't leave jobs because of the work. They leave because of the culture. They leave because they feel unseen, unheard, or unsafe. But when you create a culture of safety, you give them a reason to stay, a reason to pour their energy into the vision, a reason to go above and beyond. So many leaders are chasing performance without realizing culture is the soil that performance grows in. You can demand more all you want, but if the soil is toxic, nothing will grow. If the culture is fearful, innovation will die. But when the soil is safe, when the culture is built on trust, when vulnerability is modeled from the top down, everything flourishes. People grow, teams thrive, results multiply. Creating a safe culture is not about lowering the bar. It's about giving people the courage to reach higher than they ever thought possible. It's about unlocking creativity, unlocking resilience, unlocking commitment. It's about building an environment where failure isn't final, where risk is rewarded, where honesty is celebrated. That kind of culture doesn't just produce results, it produces leaders who will carry that same DNA forward wherever they go.